Hello there, good evening and welcome to Viewpoint. We are continuing to monitor the actions of the APNU+AFC government and we know all the developments that took place between December 21st, 2018, the evening when the no confidence motion was debated and passed, basically rendering the government collapsed or defeated. I have with me in studio this evening to continue our discussions as we keep you updated and informed as to some of the actions of the coalition government. Mr. Peter Ramsarup, welcome to the program.
Pleasure.
Peter, I know you've ventilated so much on the December 21st vote. We have spoken so much about the January 31st ruling of the Chief Justice, and of course, most recently, we had the very unpopular decision of the Court of Appeal, which ruled that the 34 votes, was required for the passage of the no confidence motion, which practically gave somewhat of some amount of life, quote unquote, to the coalition government, despite the opposition moving through the CCJ to seek redress, and is confident that the decision is likely to be overruled. I want us to deal with a little bit on the Court of Appeal's ruling. I want to hear your views on what took place that day.
Well, although many of us, respect the judicial system, I mean, it doesn't give anyone the right to disagree. I mean, I personally disagree with the judge's approach and their interpretation of a mathematical issue. And I think for most Guyanese and even around the world, this diaspora, even folks that I've talked to as I travel that are non-Guyanese, look at it and go, wait a minute, 33 is always the majority of 65. You can't dissect that in any other form. So I believe, I think on Friday, the CCJ is going to have a case management. I think all of our citizens in our nation and around the world have to push an urgency. This is almost a national security issue. I don't believe the government is legal, not because of the ruling. I think the CCJ is the final decision, and they can tend to act like things are normal, which I disagree. Things are not normal. They haven't been given a stay. The fact is, we urge the CCJ to ensure that they have a very urgent hearing in the next 2 weeks, the minimum, and let's get this national security issue resolved, because it's affecting our nation, it's affecting our economics, it's affecting political stability. We don't have a legislative branch that is legal in the country right now. Parliament should not be meeting. And so all of that uncertainty is causing significant disruption in our nation. And the CCJ, the fact that Guyana is a signature to that CCJ as an appeal court, they ought to hear this case as urgent as possible.
Certainly, you made the point that the urgency at the level of the CCJ. And one of the interesting points that you made there is the fact that the government continues to operate as though, I'm seeing statements coming out from the Attorney General, the Foreign Minister, the Chief Whip of the government, saying that, the confidence motion has been invalidated. So it's business as usual. We're going to go and do, what we were doing before. But a question continued to be asked by many Guyanese, why these actions are being taken now? Because the Court of Appeal ruled that somehow to invalidate, and I say invalidate guardedly in uplifted commas, the no confidence motion. But when the Chief Justice ruled that the motion was carried, the government wasn't respecting that ruling. What are your thoughts there?
Well, there's a statement we've made since the deadly massacre in Guyana with Jim Jones. You drink in your own Kool-Aid, you will die. And, I think they're drinking their own Kool-Aid. The fact is, nothing has changed. The fact that the no confidence vote is still valid. We have one more quarter to go through that process. Acting like they're normal, going into trying to do outreaches on government funds and other indicators that they're starting to look at is atrocious, because the fact is they are still not really in power. They're not. The fact is elections ought to be called, and the election ought to be called within the time frame. We're past that stage. So in many of our minds and across the nation, many citizens I've talked to, the fact is still an illegal government. They can act like they're normal, but again, they're drinking their own Kool-Aid.
You made a point about going out, and I want us to talk a little bit about that political activity today at the Square of the Revolution, where you had a number of ministers showing up. And I know one of the things that you're hearing from a lot of people, if you talk to them, is they're questioning why at these political events, public servants are forced to go out there and to be part and parcel of this whole political charade, this public relations stunt that the government is using. Let us talk a little bit about what happened today at the Square of the Revolution.
Well, after 4 years of being in government, and the fact that if you think of the no confidence vote, the no confidence vote wasn't a parliamentarian voting against, or 33 parliamentarians voting against a government. It's the fact that the people in our nation said they have no confidence in the government. They have not done any work over the last 4 years. Suddenly, so they're going to have an event today at the Square of the Revolution, which we all know is a political motivated environment, and to bring ministers out. Not only bringing the ministers out, if I have a ministry and I'm not efficient, that I have to take my ministry on the street, that means I am running an efficient ministry. And that's what the no confidence was about. It's an ineffective government, ineffective ministry. For ministers to come out now in a tent, and guess what, citizens? It's not just a tent, it's an air-conditioned tent, that they even brought their office chairs to the meeting. And they want you to come now, line up in the hot sun, while they sit in an air-conditioned tent. By the time you get in that tent to be able to describe your problem, you would have waited, probably hours to only be told that you now have to go back and meet somebody at the ministry. So it's a farce. At the end of the day, you don't bring government to the people like that. If you were doing your job as a minister, people will sit back in their homes and be able to say, you know what, I went into the ministry, I filed for a house lot, and I got a house lot. In the last 4 years, there have been 0 house lots given. What is today's event going to do if I come now and says, I need a house lot? The minister told the people, you know what, fill out the form, and you got to take it back and turn it into the ministry. That is not bringing government to the people. It's a farce, and I think that's wasting taxpayers' dollars. It's an efficient system. The fact that the government is proving post-December 21st that they don't have confidence in themselves. The fact is they've got to take their chairs out in the coffee square because they're not running their ministries correct. That means they don't even have confidence in themselves. So they're voting themselves out, and they have voted themselves out.
The fact, though, I mean, like you rightly said, 4 years after, there wasn't a single outreach by the government, by any single minister, where they went to communities on a broad base and tried to meet with people. And if you're really taking government to the people, then you ought to go to the communities where the people are, listen to their problems, see the conditions, the situations under which they're operating, to really deal with them. To go right outside of office of the president to hold this thing, that is certainly a publicity stunt.
Yeah,
one of the things,
before you go, Peter, it's a political stunt. Apart from, you're using taxpayers' money to politically go and act like you are now for the people.
Some of the concerns that you're hearing from a lot of people is the fact that this activity was done in Georgetown, deliberately, where the government, it's the APNU base, So obviously they try to get some APNU supporters to come out there to build up a crowd to say, oh, look, Guyanese are enjoying services from the government. And that is the point I'm making, that you have to go to the people in their communities. You have communities on the Essequibo Coast, in Berbice, in the East Bank, the West Coast, the East Coast, the West Bank. Those are a lot of those communities are not benefiting from government services. As a matter of fact, the entire country. And so those are some of the concerns you have coming from people, where they're saying that, you know, going to Square of the Revolution and sit there for a few hours and have your supporters come out. And you made the point, and because we had persons out there who are reporters and so on, who you're seeing stories all over the media where persons are saying that they went there and they were told, oh, this is your problem, okay, go to X ministry and meet this person. So there was no real addressing of problems out there.
But that's where the disconnect is. And if you look at why the no confidence happened in the first place, again, failed promises, lies to the population, lies in their manifesto. The fact, again, if they got to go out of their office, you're right, it's just a couple 100 feet out of their offices to be able to tell the people there for them when they have not delivered a single one of their promises in the last 4 years. They've delivered, zero infrastructure projects in our nation. Every possible project that is going on right now, from the West Demerara Road to the airport to the Sheriff Street to the potential Mocha Ogle Road, all were funded under the PPP government. And they're implementing some of those things terribly. I mean, I just passed through the airport the other night, and it is atrocious how all the tiles are turning black. The fungus in the building, when they, that was never the plan. And they did not only spend $150 million that was budgeted, but they spent more than $180 million, $35 million in San alone. The fact is, there's no confidence, and what all of us got to understand here, as we view it from a different end, there's no confidence in the fact that the government has not delivered to you, the fact that they have to have that air-conditioned tent. That blows my mind. I've got to keep repeating that. You're going to not just have a tent, but you want me to line up in the sun, and you come in that eliteness, the fact that they are too elite, one, for you to come to their office because they don't want you to mess up their office. They're going to move themselves to an air-conditioned tent, and they're going to bring their fancy chairs to sit on. That's an eliteness. Guyana is not that. We have working-class people. We have people that are looking for opportunity to grow. The fact that people do want house lots. I mean, I got a chance to visit the back of Eccles the other day, and when I look at the development under the PPP government, especially under former Minister Irfan Ali, and I look at the thousands of houses and how it was developed, from any income level, it happened. And the fact that 4 years, none of that development has continued, have been initiated, and zero projects has come to the table. That is no confidence. The fact is, they don't even have confidence in themselves if they're going to leave their office and go sit in a tent at Coffee Square, looking at the corrupted Durban Park that today...
Just in the background.
Just in the background. It says, as Joe Harman said in Parliament in the no confidence debate that night, that's their number one project. That is the state-of-the-art project they have done, and he repeated it over 21 times, that is the best project they have done in our nation. And if you get a chance, whoever is watching this have not gone past Durban Park, if you're out of Georgetown and you're visiting Georgetown, go visit it. And if you can tell me that's state-of-the-art, you're going to know when I talk about corruption, I'm not saying just corruption for the word corruption. The fact is that eliteness and the barefaced shamelessness for you to have your outreach, again, you made the best point, in Georgetown. Where else in the country? Am I going to take that air-conditioned tent to Lethem?
Or do you expect the people from Essequibo and Lethem and all these other places to travel and come to Georgetown to meet you? Because under the PPP, there were cabinet outreaches, but those were actually cabinet outreaches, yes, where the ministers go to a region, fan out to the communities, meet with people, listen to their concerns, and I can say this, decisions were taken on the spot. problems were addressed on the spot. Somebody has a community have problems with a road, right away, decisions are taken to get it fixed and to address those problems. What I understand happened today is a group of ministers in their air-conditioned tents and their fancy thrones, if you want to call them, that they remove from their office and put out there. And you go to them and they say to you, oh yeah, that's your problem. Okay, so here are you going to do? You're going to take these documents, you're going to go to to an officer or a department in a ministry. Then you could simply do probably a press release or something to say people should go to these departments. And that's the problem, because it is limited in terms of people who want to access it. And this started, by the way, after 4 years sitting in their offices, saying they're not going to apologize for their hefty salary increases, saying that, all sorts of things. They're now going out there. This new, as we keep saying, this newfound love for the people.
No, but in fact, as a citizen, that I have to go to Coffee Square today to describe a problem I am having, that tells me how inefficient the government has been over the last 4 years. The fact, if I've got to go stand in line in the hot sun, that means the ministries are not functioning, the ministers are not functioning, the staff is not functioning, the promises they're not delivering, and the fact again, even if it was 100 people went out today, even if it was 10,000, the fact that tells me the inefficiency of government. And the fact is, they know that they're not supposed to be in government anymore. They're spending our taxpayers' money inefficiently. And, some of those things have to be really, really looked at from a criminal perspective, because we've got, corruption going more than any other time I've seen in, the airport, the Durban Park, the bond issue, the many other spending,
medical supplies.
These are things that, as a citizen, we all have to stand up and says, what? It's not about even what happened on December 21st, the fact that the CCJ will rule very shortly on the final decision. The fact is, you've got a government that has not delivered. The fact is, we've got to move on. We've got to look to the future. We've got to look at the development aspects of our nation. We've got to go back to some of the policies that were successful, the housing especially. And most of those people today probably went looking for housing. The fact is, the housing under the PPP was probably the best, we have seen around the region, and probably anywhere in the developing country.
As a matter of fact, you made a point there. I think the Prime Minister of St. Vincent and the Grenadines visited once, and he was here to inspect, to examine our housing program, which he deemed as the best in the region. And that has collapsed because like you rightly said, not a single house lot was given to anybody since 2015.
And no development, not even the house lot. If you had, community development where, as what the former Minister Ali, who was our presidential candidate, was instrumental in building around the country, even if you had one of those areas done, you can say, well, maybe they tried. They have not delivered a single housing scheme. They have only implemented PPP projects that were funded. They have done it very, very poorly. The inefficiency is being demonstrated from today's activities. And the fact is, we're hoping and begging the CCJ to make their decision. People want to go back to the polls. People want to see a new government. They want the return of the PPP. They want the vision, our 2.0 vision we had in 2015. We would have already seen the road to Brazil going. That would have created new jobs. The fact is, we have lost significant jobs in our country, 30,000 plus. You know what that does to our economy? The fact is, I don't have disposable money in my pocket. I can't go buy that extra ice cream for my kid. All of that rippling effect has taken place over the last 4 years. So as you look at the lack of those projects coming and the uncertainty that this environment has given us with the government staying in power more than they should have, the concern of rigged election. We can't forget that. I really believe that we've got to pay extreme attention to what GCOM is doing. The fact that GCOM is not even following the Constitution. Those are issues, citizens, that we all look at. The fact is, we can laugh and joke and we can be serious about the no confidence, but this is actually a critical situation, again. If we don't have those projects to look forward to, cheaper energy in the future, new jobs to come to Guyana, we are just sitting back and allowing this government to continue to stagnate our economy, to move it down a path of no return, and we've got to ensure that doesn't happen any further than this next decision by the CCJ. And the urgency that the CCJ needs to understand, this is a national security issue. We've got to get this decision done, and the government needs to realize they better not be signing any contracts with anyone. They've got to know that they shouldn't be spending any of our taxpayers' money, and going out with 10 air-conditioned tents a day and Coffee Square, that should be considered an illegal act by this government.
And I want us to talk a little bit about, you mentioned, you touched on the corruption in the government, which I think, when you look at the stack, it's very high. Starting from 2015, from the very moment they got into office, they had started. So I want us to talk a little bit about those allegations of corruption, those repeated allegations of corruption.
Well, I mean, we have proven over the last 4 years that those allegations have no teeth behind it. The fact is, there have been no case that have shown any evidence of corruption. They are all perception of what could have happened, may have happened. There are no evidence. I mean, the fact that put people before the courts for issues that is cabinet decision, is government decision, those were things that are done above board. It is a vindictive mindset that we have to stop in our country. I came in, was out for a couple of days out of the country. I came back and they took my Guyana passport and they made me basically wait on a bench. Why is they go in the back room to figure out why am I being watched? That is a police state that we're creating again. And I tell people, this is not, putting fear in anybody's mind. This is reality that we're faced with today. We've got to ensure that we fight for democracy, we fight for the rights of our people, and we've got to make sure that these corrupted practice and the police state and the control that this government is trying to do, the potential of rigged elections, not happen. And that's why the urgency is back to the CCJ to ensure, it's sitting in Trinidad, but the fact is, Guyana security, national security is at stake, and the rights and democratic right of our citizens are there. To finally answer your question on the corruption, the fact that if you look at what they have done, these are real issues. I mean, when you have the Demerara Bridge issue, in terms of, the procurement law that was broken for the Anson McCall drugs. You've got the Durban Park where the Auditor General talks about the inefficiency and the misuse of funds and funds that haven't even been recorded. That's real corruption. That's criminal charge you can put against an individual, not a perception of a corruption charge that they have done at some of the former members of government. And that tells us that we're moving rapidly into a police state, rapidly into an undemocratic environment. And as a citizen, you should not let that happen again. And we had that in the 1980s. I grew up in the 1980s, and I can tell you, when I went through that airport yesterday, it brought back that fear. When my dad and I used to travel out to the country back in the 80s, you have to worry, but if you had a 2 gold chain on or a gold chain on, that they will take it away from you. Simple things like that. You have to worry if you had an extra $5 in your pocket that you shouldn't have had because you only allowed $25 to leave this country. That's that's the fear that came back to me when they took my passport away the other night. And I'm telling citizens, whatever we do, don't let that happen. Let's fight for democracy. Let's fight for how far we have gotten in Guyana, and let's not have any one of them from Granger and his cabinet that is wasting our taxpayers' money. We've got to ensure that we never let these individuals, because they're not government anymore, ruin our nation. We've got to look for progress and development going forward.
And I think, Peter, one of the things that would have triggered, and I keep repeating this, the no confidence motion, or among the things, you have, first and foremost, the poor performance of the government, the inaction of the government, not really carrying real services to the people, not really serving the Guyanese people generally. Community roads are broken, schools are not being fixed, textbooks are not in schools, students are sharing bench and desk and chairs in schools, public servants not getting anything substantial. Teachers had to protest to get money, to get an increase in salary. You have pensioners lost their water subsidy, electricity subsidy. School children lost their $10,000, the $10,000 that we had started for every child every year. And with all of that, the economy collapsing, no new investment, not a single investment that came in under this government since they took office. 4 years after, they can't name a single one. And they can't say ExxonMobil and the oil industry because that started quite a while ago. All of that coupled with the fact that we have probably about 70 cases of corruption. In less than 4 years, about 70 cases of corruption. And this is not make-up charges that you want to charge somebody because you have some political agenda or something of that sort. The Amara Harbor Bridge feasibility study, $150 million. The minister took the contract, unsolicited bid in the first place, took it to cabinet approved, award the contract. Went ahead, had the money paid, completely ignoring the tender board. And the Public Procurement Commission looked into that. You had the minister single sourcing what is called emergency drugs that took several months to come here, $600 million. Then you had another case again where it was deemed emergency drugs and it took how long to come. You had a minister went and rented a bottom house for $12.5 million a month, calling it a storage bond, and when you open it, it had a few boxes of condoms inside, and that was it. And the list goes on. The list goes on almost on a daily basis. You couldn't find the 18 million US dollars that the signing bonus, until somebody exposed it and pressure was built on them. So the evidence of corruption in the government is there. You don't need to search anywhere. Just open the newspapers on a daily basis and you're going to see the evidence of corruption. You're going to see what is taking place in our country. And you're going to hear the cries. Talk to people in your community. You're going to hear the cries. People are broke. That's the reality. People are broke. Youths, that's a whole different discussion, Peter.
But see, that's the measurement, that we all, people say, you guys are politicians, you're going to say this and you're going to say that. If you just look at your pockets and your wallet and the end of the month when you get your salary, what is your disposable income that is left? Forget the fact, I'm a politician, I'm going to tell you all this corruption happened. The fact is most people, 30,000 don't have jobs. The fact is the economy is stagnated. The private sector put out a survey that every 2 out of 3 businesses are suffering because of political uncertainty and other issues surrounding the environment that we live in right now with the no confidence vote. The fact is there's no new investment coming in the country. No new foreign investment has come in the country over the last 4 years. The ExxonMobil was PPP before. All of the Guyana Gold Field, the Qualcomm, all these investments were pre-2015. So the fact is you have no new investment. You've got an environment where investors is not going to come in because you technically have an illegal government. You have 200 plus tax increase. We have the biggest budget in history, and you don't have any money in your pocket. I don't have to tell you about corruption. The fact is, there is corruption. In fact, if we can make extra money to buy a car and even that extra ice cream for your kid at the end of the week because they did well in school, and those sugar workers worrying where their next money is going to come from, to the pensioners paying taxes on the water and electricity, that is what emotionally carries me to the fact that, we are all in this same boat together. The fact is, the corrupted practice, the inefficiency of spending our taxpayers' dollars, the tax burden on our people, and the cumbersome way of doing business that this government has put together, the measurement is a fact that we don't have money in our pocket to take care of our family. And at the end of the day, that is why the failed promises, the government has failed the people, they've failed the nation, and those that may have voted for them in the past, I think a lot of them have come and says, we apologize. We probably didn't realize we had a good thing going. We had a good thing going, and we messed it up. 4 years now we're behind on major developments. I mentioned the road to Brazil, the Deepwater Harbor, the Amalia Falls project, things that would have changed our nation radically and rapidly, create new jobs. In the APNU manifesto, we're talking about 50,000 new jobs, and we will deliver those jobs because there's so many new industries that are coming on in the future as we build back what we left off and bring the new ones together. I'm excited about the future. The fact is these guys have been corrupt. They've tanked our economy. But the fact that, as soon as we have elections and PP come back in government, there is hope. There's hope for our nation. The fact that we will see rapid development, new industries. So I'm excited, even on the depression that we go through and see how our taxpayers' dollars are wasted today. There's hope, the fact that we are coming back and we will plan to deliver everything we say. And the fact is you will have that disposable income. Creation of wealth is a very important factor. Owning your own home, driving your own car, taking care of your kids, spending money when you can spend it on education and other items. That's what an economy and a country should look forward to. And I am excited the fact that we're going to get there very soon.
Thank you, Peter. And of course, I think the bottom line is, when you look at it, people can easily say the APNU+AFC government is about bringing hardship to people. That's all. You check it. I mean, you listed a whole host of things, and I could list it probably for the next 15, 20 minutes. We can keep listing all of the measures that are anti-poor, that are anti-working class, that you see coming from the government. And like I said, young people, that's a whole different discussion, because they've been hoodwinked, they've been fooled, they've been duped, whatever word you want to use to describe it, into believing that these people had them at heart. And when you look at the outcome, all the young people were cast aside. And, friends and family and old buddies are being given the opportunities, while our young people continue to suffer. And what the president tells them, go and fry some plantain chip and make some cook-up rice. So, you all ain't got money because you guys going to the Guinness bar and drink out your money, and all sorts of degrading statements you're saying to the very young people who you relied on in 2015 to vote for you, to get you in there. But we're going to continue this discussion on another occasion, Peter. I think we're almost out of time.
And the fact is, we have no confidence in this government. I can see within the next couple of days or weeks or whatever they may have left that they want to hold on to power, that things will change. And no air-conditioned tent, no fancy office chair, no citizen should stand in the sun waiting to be seen when we have government buildings that we're paying taxpayers' money on. That's the fact that they're inefficient, and the fact that our nation and our people has no confidence in this government. And it's time that they realize that, stop drinking their own Kool-Aid, and move on. It's time for elections to be called, and all of us get a chance to go back to the polls and make the decision we're looking to make.
Thank you very much, Peter, and I want to thank you guys very much for joining us. Like I said, we're going to continue to monitor what is happening in our country and keep you updated with regards to the actions of this government, all actions that are anti-poor, like I said, and they're not inclined to bring any benefits to you. Remember, you have a few months more, a few weeks more, we don't know, but we know that we are confident that the CCJ is going to overturn the decision of the appeals court, and we're going to have elections pretty soon. I want you to be updated. Keep yourself updated. Read what is happening. Study what is happening in your country. And if you have to choose, you have to vote based on policies and programs, then your choice is quite simple. the People's Progressive Party Civic. Until next time, we want to thank you very much for being part of this program, and we're going to continue to engage you to let you know what is taking place in our country. Peter,
Pleasure.
thanks again, buddy.
Pleasure.